Hi, you are watching SightsIn Plus, and this is Romesh Shivastu. Please do subscribe the channel for the HR news, for HR updates, and conversation with the top-notch CHROs, thought leaders, and business heads. Today, we are going to dive deep the challenges with the modern workplaces and how the leaders can improve the work culture. And joining us, a world-renowned mentor and HR thought leader, none other than Mr. Prabir Jha. He is a founder and CEO of Prabir Jha People Advisory. Welcome, Prabir. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation. It's an honor to interact with you.
Thank you so much, Romesh. I owed this conversation to you. I'm sorry I have been a little laggard in this, but an honor and a privilege to be on your show.
Recently, we have seen two cases basically, and one case from the EY, and another case we have seen recently from Bajaj Finance. That person committed the suicide. And in both the cases, we have seen the two very common reasons. One, the workplace, maybe the toxic culture, and some excessive workplace, or maybe the humiliation, mental torture. You can count these other things. I would like to know what is the modern work culture according to you, and is the toxicity increasing at the work?
Romesh, it's a great question. I, for one, at least look at culture a little broadly. I believe culture stands for what we individually and collectively think, do, relate, behave, and deliver a product, service, or experience. The operating word is thought. You know, at the end of the day, every culture starts with the way we think. It's almost like a belief, it's a mindset. So even a toxic work culture is either a belief that it is okay, it is normal. I can humiliate people, I can be tyrannical, I can be a micromanager, I can call people anytime, I can get them to work any moment. It's in the mind. See, sometimes people are not even conscious of it because if they are, let us say, a promoter, no one has ever told them that साहब ये गलत है. No one has ever dared to tell them. Even if you're a professional, in many organizations where toxicity is quite rampant, this is the only role model they have seen. Every manager, leader that they worked with was like this. So when they become a toxic leader, to them it is very normal and natural. This is how workplaces are, right? So this issue becomes important because not that this wasn't existing earlier. The world has become more integrated across time zones, across. So there's never a time when you say you're off work, unfortunately, which is why there is no respect for sanctity of time. So even if you are at home, but the boss wants you on a call at 10 o'clock, at 2 o'clock, at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you do it, it is an extension of toxicity. People say that it's always the customer's needs. I'm familiar also, for example, with law firm working, and I hear a lot of stories. How can law firms work like this? Erratic, late hours, endlessly, month after month, quarter after quarter. No client is expecting that. There could be some seasonality. I understand. There could be some. So I think it's a lot to do with the thinking, the mindset of managers, leaders, promoters, and the indifference of the board. Because most boards actually have the same set of people who are, let us retired and joined the board. So for them, it's not an issue. You look at board meetings or board agendas or annual reports, apart from a token little paragraph, employees are our most valuable asset at the end of the chairman's report, there's nothing. I mean, no board meeting has this as an agenda. I mean, when I'm saying no means virtually none, right? So this problem is a very, very closed loop problem. And therefore, the issues of engagement, issues of getting away with murder, issues of explaining these as Six Sigma, problems, that even in Six Sigma, there are the odd cases which happens. But I think it's not about fatality. It's not about deaths alone. It is really about, is this the smartest thing for companies? Can you sustain it? And I leave this question on my last comment to you, that because India is in a way very high young talent supply rich, people don't care. You want to quit, I'll get someone else. Because what we are wanting is just a pair of hands. We are not really wanting a thinking mind. And therefore, this entire debate which happened with the 70-hour week was also this. हम सोचते हैं कि सब मुझे कोलू का बैल चाहिए, And I think that's the problem. We all need to work hard, but we need to work smarter. We need to say, can we do the same thing in 5 hours? Is there a better reorganization of work? Can we practice more of appreciation? Can we, blah, blah, blah. But I think no one has the time. Everyone loves to look busy from the chairman or the CEO down. So who has time to step back and say, what I'm doing, is it right? Is it actually adding up even from a business perspective? So that's my overall sense of what the problem really is.
Yeah, absolutely. You have highlighted very important point that retention that is also gone, and the companies are not trying to retain the person. If some employee expresses the desire to leave the organization, so companies are also not putting the effort to retain that person the level that should be. So this is definitely so. If the engagement is low, so employee is not responsible. Only the organizations are equally responsible for this. Right now, if you see, you have highlighted another point about some challenges what the knowledge workers are facing. So might be the dignity is somehow maybe you are calling in the midnight, you are calling at any time, and blah blah blah, a lot of things. And according to the knowledge, education, and these all the things, do organizations really uphold the dignity of a knowledge worker currently in such kind of the workplaces?
Yeah, so I don't know. At the end of the day, if I were to look at it clinically, the answer is no. If I look at the West, if I look at London, where at 4 o'clock every shop is closed because work-life balance is very important, that is the other extreme. I'm not saying you have to swing to the other extreme, but there has to be a certain consideration, empathy. Is it fair to keep a guy on the tight leash till 3 o'clock in the morning? Is it okay to wake him up at 2 o'clock because suddenly someone wants to do a call? It is poor planning. And I don't think it is a sustainable or a smart or a sensitive, three S's, solution. Because, there is an odd day where there'll be a crisis. I understand. But if every day is a crisis, every month is a crisis, every quarter is a crisis, either you don't have the right people, you don't have enough people, you are trying to save money, and making the same guy do three people's jobs, or some people who are good are the ones who are squeezed more. And, the most important thing is all of this has got linked to a lot of your performance appraisal, reward, and recognition practice. So a guy who may not necessarily be brilliant, but is willing to kind of appear he's working or he's actually slaving because of even say quasi incompetence, till 12 o'clock at night is celebrated, he's promoted, he's given a better rating. So what do? You create an artificial practice of celebrating what you are raising as wrong practice. But that gets reinforced and people don't realize it. देखो वो तो 12 बजे तक काम करता है. He may not actually be efficient. The same job can be done earlier and quicker and better. But in India, we have celebrated long hours. Mehnat karo beta. I mean, you have to see it in the context. Mehnat karo beta is not about doing mazduri of chipping away stones, right? You need the mind to be fresh. You need, because you use the word knowledge workers, you need the mind to be productive. And to that extent, yes, someone like me, I'm at my sharpest best in the mornings. 9 o'clock, my mind is shut. My children will only get productive from 9 o'clock in the evening. Now, companies and managers have to be smart to allow people their space when they will be at their best, because the same work can be done quicker. But unfortunately, what we have got into, and it's a terrible problem, is just long hours of work, right? And I think the pretense of that as equated to impact, competence, loyalty, dedication is a myth that needs to be exploded. Because if we continue to do that, I don't think we are actually working as smart knowledge workers, which is really what I think is going to be the sustainable edge that any nation or any company or any manager would like to have from his or her team.
Very important points I think you have highlighted here. If you see the engagement, there is also data by the LinkedIn, which was released in the beginning of this year, I think in January. So around 88% people, they are looking for the new job. Means they are not engaged with the company. It's very clear. Now, I think let's move to the solution part. How the leaders, how the HR leaders can improve the situation, what they need to do. how we can improve this kind of the situation, because this is not going to long. You will burn your talent. This is not going to work.
So, first is I don't think the solution is only with HR. That's the wrong end of the barrel. But you're so right. HR must be a very strong influence and guide. And what I hear, what I read, and what I feel very disappointed about is HR people feel helpless or indifferent. Indifferent because they want to get their bonuses right with their so-called CEOs and their line leaders, right? So they don't even want to call it out. Indifferent, you know that there is a problem, but you'll say, मेरे समय में क्या इतना दिमाग लगाने का है. So, or some people will retire and want to become, advisors to the same chairman and same CEOs of the company. So again, keep the guy in good humor. So the integrity that HR needs to demonstrate, unfortunately, or the candor, the courage, I think I'm very disappointed with lack of it. I'm sure, very strong, isolated exceptions. But overall, I think when I speak to HR leaders also, they say, Prabir, what is there? Or, if I just do these two things, my KRA is met. And these are very senior HR leaders. And I just feel I lived a very different philosophy because I became an HR professional by accident. I was a bureaucrat who came to the corporate world, but I never in any company, and you look at any of my innings, and these have been giant organizations, I ever, इसको हिंदी में बोलते मैंने डर के नौकरी किया ही नहीं कभी. Maybe I should have, right? But I think unless you have courage, unless you stop thinking about your own survival and your own sinecure and your own reward, you can never bring integrity to the job. It's a very harsh thing to say, but at least for some of the younger HR leaders who will become CHROs, this is a very, very straight from the heart advice. We have to kind of acquire greater integrity. It's not about you. It's about what you can do. So that's the first part. HR must have the ability to influence. So once you have courage, do you know how to influence? Sometimes influence is at the right moment. Influence is using the right words. Influence is calling it out to the right people. Influence is sometimes creating a bit of drama. Do whatever. There are different moments of doing it, but you have to influence. So that's the second part. Unless the CEO or the chairman of the company, the board of the company realizes it's a problem, you will never win. Once you've got the top leadership, on your side and your HR team, seeing your candor, your courage, your confidence, will start exhibiting their behaviors with their parallel levels of leadership. So you have to sync it that way. So that's one is the approach. Now, what should they do? See, you prioritize. At the end of the day, you can't solve all problems in one stroke. So if it is long hours, then start solving for long hours. Like in one of the biggest companies I worked in, that big celebrated 6-day to 5-day week transition, which till today people talk about. How did you pull it off, Prabir? I did. And at the end of the day, for me, it was important that it shows the first sign of that company's willingness to change. Why was it not done for so many years before me? Or when I started moving a lot of things to self approval, it was a sign of saying you don't have to waste managers' time and managers don't have to play God. So I moved 24 policies to self-approval, and I can give you howlers of policies which I moved to self-approval, which was unthinkable. And MNCs don't do it. Even today, they don't do it. So you have to pick your battles. Which is the one that you believe is bothering people most? If it is toxic behavior, then you need to make sure that in the appraisal system or reward system or promotion systems, misbehavior is a disincentive. You're a great guy, you delivered all your numbers, but sorry, you're not going to get the highest rating or you'll not be promoted. So you have to influence these changes. So you have to decide what you want to do. The very simple thing, Ramesh, is alignment, influencing an alignment of leadership so that they genuinely start believing and behaving that if we actually change some of these things, it's good for business, which is my conviction. I was also told, oh, if we work one day less, productivity will fall, production will stop. Nothing happened. We actually got better. But, your body language, your conviction, your charge should be such that, believe me, trust me, we'll do it and you deliver it. Then everything else, they start listening. And company after company, this was a strategy which worked with me. Pick one thing which you hit out of the park, but which shocks the system. And then you get the right to be heard, the right to influence. But if you're only an order taker, you will never get onto this journey of building a different engagement culture. Third, which I think again HR guys miss, either they are only in the trenches and they are unable to strategically architect, influence, think, position themselves, or they're all just managing the big guys. They don't care about the rank and file. वो मिलते नहीं है. They don't step out of their cabins. And it's a big problem. People don't like to be reminded this. But CHROs have no time. Where does your time go? I never had a problem. I led HR from the biggest companies. I always had time to meet anyone, to travel anywhere, wade into people, because it is symbolism. If the CHRO can meet anyone, how can any other leader say that, he doesn't have time? If, you are able to kind of put your arms around someone, how can you not do? So people pick role modeling. I think role modeling is what HR has to, or the right role modeling HR has to celebrate. So putting systems for the right reward and recognition, showing the red card if someone has been a toxic leader. These are tough. Let me tell you, these are tough moments. These are not easy debates, because every manager of that toxic manager knows that this guy is delivering my KRA. See, I mean, that's how the selfish system works. But a good, strong, and that's why just having an MBA in HR does not make you a great leader, or MBA in any discipline. MBAs don't necessarily become great leaders. So you need to have belief, faith. I always have said, Ramesh, Niti ke pehle niyat. For years, I have said this. And I now hear politicians also start talking about it. But it is so true. यदि आपकी नियत ही क्लियर नहीं है तो नीति क्या क्या. So today you find all kinds of stupid policies, bereavement policy of 2 days, pet policy of 1 day, and this leave. I mean, it's nonsensical beyond a point. It's nonsensical. That doesn't truly build engagement. Engagement comes when you make people find meaning in their work. Even if I'm the junior most guy, how my work actually makes a difference to either an end customer or to the customer. How does my manager find value? Make the work content significant, make the guy feel wanted. But unfortunately, because no one has ever talked about these things, I advise a lot of startups, mid companies, and large companies. And a chairman of a very large company who I was advising a couple of years ago asked me suddenly, "But Prabir, no one has told me this in 35 years." And I said, "Don't you regret it now?" So the question is, why can't people actually be honest? People may struggle for some time. It's not easy. I was told also that maybe it's not in our DNA to make some changes. But you cross that bridge also. You're able to influence, right? And once you've been able to hit one ball out of the park, things suddenly start happening. So you have to know which is that one thing which is the loose ball that you're going to hit, or the biggest thing that will send the biggest signal, because that gives credibility to HR leaders, that brings credibility and confidence in people. And then you start adding whatever actually makes a difference, and not stupid kind of some little policy here and tweak there. It's trivializing the agenda.
Beautiful. I think I'm picking three words from your advice. That is first the intention, what is your intention? Then how you take the initiative, and do you have the courage? So these three things are very important for a HR leader and any of the leader in organization. So that is very important to take to do something good for the organization, for the people, for the employees. This is the one thing which is on the part of leadership. Another thing, maybe can we create also a feedback system? Maybe recently the Deloitte has also started three people, a committee kind of thing. This is also kind of feedback mechanism. This is the one. And how do you see, is there any also responsibility of the government, regulatory authorities? Do we need to create also a law, or do we need to enforce the existing laws in a right direction, so that the things may improve with all the corporates?
It's a brilliant question. I have worked in the government of India. I've been on the other side of the table. I can tell you, I'm not a big believer of over-regulation. The minute you kind of build laws, there'll be more corruption, there'll be more managing the system. It will become like the great place to work kind of racket. Everyone will show that everything is perfect, but is it? I mean, almost every company says, I'm a great place to work. But if you were a great place to work, why do these instances continue to happen? Why does attrition continue to happen? Why does toxic behavior continue to plague organizations? So everything is a business model. So I think in getting into the thing of governmental interference, if things don't change, the government will always have the right and it will be done. But will it automatically ensure things get better? I don't know. That's the first part. And anything that you do to comply with the law cannot be as good as when you believe that this is good for us. So self-regulation is more important than governmental regulation, Ramesh, in my personal view. You talked about feedback. Absolutely, I agree, feedback. But I will have a lot of caveats. It is not that many of these companies don't run their 360-degree surveys, their ESAT surveys, their climate surveys, all kinds of trust surveys. There are a lot of surveys. And people typically ask the question, so Prabir, what comes out of it? It's back to that niyat, intent. The inability to kind of concretize actioning. I mean, some tokenism here and there happens, but concretizing, it doesn't happen because some dhanda has to be done, some business measures have to happen, or some leader is protected employee, he cannot be exited. So no signals go out. So what happens with feedback, whether you form committees or you do whatever, do people have the confidence to go up and truly speak up? So many companies say we have one of the board members as an ombudsman. I mean, I know, and I've done my share of it, so I know everything is in place. Oh, you have a helpline, you can directly call that number, you can do this, that, and the other. Do people use it? It's almost like saying, oh, we have gyms in our office and we have this in our office. How many people use it? Because your culture does not celebrate people who take time off to go to the gym. They'll say, oh, this guy doesn't have work. So similarly, a lot of things which look good and correct on paper from an audit perspective for brownie points are not actually practiced effectively because people don't trust you. And this is what I believe is a board agenda. But look at board composition. Look at the quality of board members. How many board members, again, have the courage and the true independence to speak up? So all of this is good, provided the company genuinely wants to hear, receives every negative feedback well, and actions on it. I will tell you now that I'm away from the executive life. A CEO of a company told me that, Prabir, the promoters think that you don't like the company enough. I said, as a CHRO, it is my fiduciary responsibility to, both in the management team and in the NRC, raise issues which no one else will want to raise. Everyone wants to say everything is great. But sorry, your job is to raise issues. If I tell you the top 100 leaders of this company are not happy and you don't like to hear it, the problem is with you. The problem is not with me. But when you tell me this twice, what are you basically telling me? Mr. CHRO, shut up. Right? So I think all of these are good, provided intent to receive and intent to act is in place. If that is not there, this will be one more thing on a campus PPT or a great place to work questionnaire that we have it all. But truly, nothing actually. So, the hypocrisy of leadership, that's the word I use a lot these days, is what bothers me. Every CEO and chairman will say the right things in an HR conference or a leadership conference. Who will not say the right things? I've heard very senior, now retired CHROs of very big companies say, my honorable chairman always talks about honorable chairman. Why are you sucking up to the chairman? The fact is, do your employees truly believe this? So, we have to move away from this excessive awards and excessive conferences and all of this nonsense, because this has trivialized what I believe is a very, very serious corporate agenda, all the way from board. How many board retreats actually talk about culture? How many board meetings talk about the operating culture in a company? Virtually nothing. So this is where people have to, and they don't always like the candor with which I'm saying, but honestly, it will help them. It will make their companies better. But it's become a very convenient. Everyone is kind of making sure that they are doing the tokenism, but nothing substantive is actually happening.
I think you have highlighted also about something, the ecosystem, what the society says about this. Yeah, absolutely. Government, society, and industry, these have to be on same page when we are looking for the change, and especially the culture kind of the change. As far as the work is concerned, so maybe the toxic work is that when you don't get the value, maybe you're working for, but you're not getting the value, you're not getting the credit. Sometimes working long, I think, doesn't, nothing is wrong. Maybe you are starting a project, you have to work for 12 hours, 14 hours, you have to work if you want to make the success of that project. But if you don't get the credit, if you're not being recognized for this, someone else is taking the credit and you're working in a pressure. If you don't do it, your job is
Correct.
gone. So in that is
Correct.
that is the toxic. We have to move out from this kind of the culture.
So well said, Ramesh. Actually, that's why I, in the beginning, said toxicity has different manifestation. It's not just long hours. No one minds. We have all worked very hard. I've worked very hard, right? But the fact is, it is not 365 days a year. My daughter used to work in a law firm in India. Now she works abroad. And she would say that I have no problem working very, very long hours, 5 days in a week. Can they at least give us time to recover, recuperate, on Saturday, Sunday? In one of the companies many years ago where I was a CHRO, I changed the entire leave norms. Because even socially, when I would go out, people would say, but in your company, I'm told that, Saturday, Sunday, etc., etc. I'm talking more than 20 years ago. I changed the leave norms. I said, you cannot hold a leave and carry it forward next year for leave encashment end of your career. You will need to mandatorily use 50% of your leave, otherwise it lapses. The idea was to get people to take leave. And if a manager says, oh my God, if that guy is on leave, that is your job as a manager to plan. Because, no one can be at his or her best, without taking leave for rest, recuperation, for social purposes. So, unless you start, walking the talk, this hypocrisy will not end. And you have to decide what is the most toxic element in your work culture. We don't know. I won't say just long hours. Maybe in somewhere else, it is disrespectful behavior. In some, it could be what you said, stealing credit. In some cases, it could be micromanaging because, there is a level of insecurity of leaders across level because everyone is doing a job 2 levels, 3 levels lower than his or her competence. So dimensions could be varied. And that is where an astute HR head will know this is my point of incision. This is where I want to start rather than do some spray painting and say that I was busy. And, problem is we have to stop doing our HR, for a PowerPoint presentation. We have to do HR to make organizations, better, to make organizations more sustainable, to make organizations more effective. That is strategic thinking. But unfortunately, we've all got reduced D&I drama here, some little drama of Rangoli and something there, everything has a little place here and there. But are these the most strategic issues? I don't know.
So one more thing is, I think the digitalization, if you see, more we are talking about the artificial intelligence, most of the HR process, maybe at the pilot stage with, I think, most of the companies, nothing is concrete as of now. But yeah, they have started, at least they have started with the recruitment process. Do you think, is it also losing somewhere the trust, that personal connect, that, empathy part, that ethical part? Do you think it is also a reason that's why the employee engagement is getting down? What is the right way, how the HR leader play a role here so that they can create a good engagement with the AI tools?
This question is a subject of a full conversation someday, but I'll just give you, a top of the level thing. Yes, there is a lot more of AI. There's a lot more of machine learning. There's a lot more of digitization. But let us first be honest. This is all to enable us to do our routine tasks better, smarter, quicker. For what? For sparing us more time to do what is more strategic, either thinking, designing for tomorrow, planning for tomorrow, or maybe just connecting with our employees better. That is the logic, right? I mean, in one of my companies, within 6 months of my joining, I downsized HR, and this is about 10 years ago. I downsized my own team by 40% within 6 months. I shifted a lot of the jobs out because you don't need so many people to do routine jobs. So, automation or digitization, if you ask me, is going to be a big enabler. It is going to reduce the size of HR. HR will shift from a doing function to becoming a getting it done function. It will become a more strategic function. So issues of greater connect. How many HR people actually are talent advisors to the rank and file? Very, very few. How many CHROs truly are inspiring when they meet their teams? Do they even have time for that? How many of them are actually doing things which is making the employees feel more energized about doing that? So leverage of all this should take drudgery out. Long hours. So you talked about TA. So I work with a couple of startups in the TA space. And the idea is that what takes 20 days can be done in 2 hours. So you can be more efficient. So you don't have to be burnt out. The question is who is checking whether they got some relief out of it, because if you load them with something else, then it's another thing. So I think I see technology more as a very, very active partner in crime, but not the panacea. It gives you relief. What you do with that relief is still the genius of the human mind, is the genius of leadership, and it is in that ability to tango, rather than to say everything I have digitized, everything I have done. And it's not just in HR. You may have digitized a system and process. And remember, Ramesh, digital is a mindset. I've been talking about it for years now. Today, technology is very intuitive. How do you shop on Swiggy or Amazon, or you do your things on Facebook or wherever else? It's intuitive. None of us is writing a code. You don't have to do that. But if people still say, take down whatever I am telling you about the feedback of the candidate and put it in the system, you will never truly build digital systems. And information democracy is not an easy beast to handle, whether for HR leaders or for leaders in general. So that's a different and a bigger conversation. But I think it has a huge opportunity to help. But will HR people use this to reinvent themselves and their functions? That time alone will say.
Very insightful conversation, I would say. And I'm taking 3 points that the right intent, your intention, that is very important. Initiative is very important. And you have to show the courage. If you want to change the culture, if you want to change, make it better workplace, so you have to, courage is very important. You have to take the initiative. Thank you so much, Mr. Prabir, for joining the
Thank you.
conversation and sharing your wonderful thoughts. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.